This week on The Brand Fathers, it is just Father Jordan and I. We are going to be covering some big rebrands. We're talking Domino's. We are talking Crocs. We are talking the city of Austin. Are all of these dollars worth it for the spend there? We're going to talk about a few things that caught our attention just today, topically on brands, big brands losing their relevance, what their original founders are saying. So we're going to talk Chip Wilson here. Jordan, you have not seen this. So I'm curious to get your live take on it. And then just some other big happenings in the world of brand and marketing.
Absolutely. We're going everything from Domino's Pizza to Lululemon. So this is going to be great.
All right. So let's pull this up. I saw this post this morning from Chip Wilson. Chip Wilson was the original founder of Lululemon and I believe ran it for probably 15, 20 years, took it public, and he took out a full page ad in the Wall Street Journal.
Whoa.
It says,
oh my gosh,
this is crazy. It says Lululemon in a nosedive. For anyone who's not watching the video, I'll kind of read pieces of this. When I founded Lululemon in 1998, it was built on a relentless focus of innovation, product culture, and customer experience. We invented a technical product, business model, and created a new apparel category, pioneered community marketing, and developed system processes so simple a refrigerator could manage them. Then he goes on to say, by its 25th anniversary, Lululemon should have been a $100 billion market cap company. Instead, its trajectory has declined. Why? Lululemon directors have systematically dismantled the business model and lost employees who held the institutional knowledge that made the company great. Like a plane crash, decline rarely happens because of a singular failure. It is a series of mistakes. It talks about how the founders leave, the loss of creative to merchants and short-term gains and just building for Wall Street, the domino effect. So this idea of, when top talent and top creative leaves because you have more spreadsheet guys in the room, that has this cascading domino effect of talent kind of across the spectrum. How the culture has eroded, how there's been a loss of culture, and then what is the result of this been? So,
well, hold on. This says culture erosion. This is interesting to me, having had some experience of this. New executives from old school companies chase short-term margin growth and resume building. I refer to these, we had a conversation the other night with a CMO at a big company. I refer to these people as previously people, which to build all the cool companies, and they never really spend too much time at any one, like maybe 18 months to 3 years, but it's so that they can have previously Google, Apple, Facebook, Nike, they like to add up these really cool logos. That's interesting. Directors unwilling to confront their own role in the decline and attempt to replace the CEO, only to realize for the third time that they've failed to develop an internal successor. The loss of cool, the result, and then the path forward. Wow. Keep going.
So he says, hey, here's the situation. Here's why it's so bad. Here's what I believe the path forward to be. So number one, I take these as fairly obvious things, but big public companies do not. Number one, put product and brand back at the center. Rebuild the knowledge and system that deliver product in 9 months, not 2 years. Number two, bring entrepreneurial ownership back onto the board. Number three, empower creative leadership over merchants. Number four, stop chasing Wall Street at the expense of customers. Number five, recommit to the muse, the woman who inspires the brand. When I read all of that, if you were to just take one of them and say, all of this other stuff is a downstream effect of one thing, which is stop chasing Wall Street, because then it's, hey, we're going to cut costs. We're going to de-risk all of our product innovation. We're going to go for cheaper materials. We are so focused on our short-term revenue goals that everything we're going to do is going to be in pursuit of squeezing that rather than having this really holistic long-term vision. We're going to focus on people who can optimize that, not people who maybe have grander creative visions here. And so I'm curious, as someone who has worked at publicly traded apparel company that is very large, that has also been indicted of losing its way over the years.
Yep.
What is your thoughts on this?
Okay. Two things. I had an interesting take from the CMO the other night, who he said, a lot of people try to glamorize the private company and the opposite. They villainize the public company because you're so incentivized by the stock, by just quarterly earnings, right? And he was like, people sway a little too far to that opinion because they basically don't want to be held to account that they're actually growing the business and doing the right thing. And I think the truth is probably somewhere in between, but I think he has a fair point. I don't really know what you do from this stance. So I think Nike and Lululemon are actually on two sides of the same coin. And I have a proprietary proprietary athleisure chart, which I created. This chart shows basically at the top that any male-founded company are generally founded in footwear through the lens of direct sport. Outside of Under Armour, Nike, Puma, Adidas, Jordan Brand, Converse were all founded in direct sport, built for males, and built in footwear. And Lululemon is the poster child for being founded for females in apparel, mostly focused on things outside of sport or like adjacent to sport, right? So yoga is this case, but these others are for athleisure, cycling, studio classes, fitness. But essentially what happens on both sides of this coin is that they realize that they've made several $billions off of that one customer, but if they want to continue to grow in their stock, they need to go get the other side of this. So they need to go get into sports. They need to go get men. And that's what Lululemon has been doing over the last, say, 5 years or so. They even started developing footwear. And Nike has done the same. Nike figured out they needed to go get women. If they want to continue to grow at that clip, they are going to need to go develop apparel, compete with people like Lululemon. And so both sides are basically just trying to swap places and take similar market share. And I think both have suffered from the same thing, which is like you kind of end up becoming this catch-all brand that doesn't have the hard edge and that sharp edge, I should say, of serving that customer. And I don't really know what you do once you go publicly traded. I think the big bad secret, I would always say to our leadership a lot of times, like, yeah, we have all these posters around walls saying that the consumer comes first, but that's not true. Your shareholders come first. It's completely not true. You're giving them a bunch of crap that they don't need or ask for because you need to grow your share price. So I don't really know what the solve is for this because I think we could review his proposed solutions, but I don't know. What do you think from the outside, Ashwin?
I found it always interesting that all of these emerging brands or the kind of well-worn strategy in the consumer space is you start with a niche, you kind of own or saturate that niche, which appealing to that niche requires you to speak their language, build products tailored for them, right? In your marketing and your product.
Yeah.
Then you realize, hey, maybe the women of a certain type and profile who do yoga is only such a big market that to expand beyond that, we have to kind of broaden our audience of who this market is. And this is how most brands, consumer brands, grow. They just keep widening the aperture. The question or challenge is, you get so wide that you become a brand that's, okay, well, we've lost touch with the core kind of premise and proposition of our brand. And so as a result, that creates a vacuum that new brands can come fill in, right? Which is 5 years from now, you could probably start another yoga brand that just takes a hyper specific niche and you're like, we're going to speak to them. And that's so you saw kind of as Lulu grows, like Fiore comes in and gets a lot of steam.
Alo Yoga,
Alo. They're all going through the same thing, right? They're becoming $500 billion businesses that, okay, more gaps are going to emerge and it's going to get kind of hyper segmented. On one hand, I understand, hey, you have to move out of the niche in order to keep growing, especially when you're a public company. You kind of have to focus on that. I don't know how you solve that. I don't know what you do when you're in their position. Yeah, it's a tough one.
I would be curious if Chip still has stock and maybe that's why he's trying to do this, to rally. I don't know that it's going to help. It's a real challenge, and I don't know what the solution is, but I do know every single company basically is following the same path. So Alo Yoga started in LA. They then started Alo Men, and they go off and they get all the LA yoga girlies, and then they go sign Jimmy Butler from the Heat, and they signed Joe Burrow now from football, and you have Fiore, which started as kind of San Diego. I love people who said like Alo Yoga is LA Lululemon and Fiore is San Diego Lululemon. I just thought that was like such a good descriptor. But, Fiore is going to sign football players now. They go get Jared Goff. They got Arch Manning. It's kind of fascinating. I don't know how you take your eye off the ball. At Nike, I thought they had a really good strategy that they developed. It was just before I came to the company. They called it a category offense. And the last CEO who just got pushed out had tried to switch to a gender offense, and the new one, Elliot Hill, is restoring it back to you basically build teams to serve specific sports.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, like, we're going to have a team who obsesses basketball. We're going to have a team who obsesses soccer.
Mm-hmm.
And Nike, I think, was revealing, at time Nike would then have one that was like a catch-all that would be Nike Women's. You would obsess how you're going to serve those women. But within a massive gender, you have women who are really competitive, like say Caitlin Clark or Asia Wilson, who are competing in something like basketball, or Serena. And then you have like your yoga girlies. And that was the hard part, is like they're not a monolith, women all together. And the same could be said for yoga girlies. The other thing that's challenging is a lot of these fitness trends kind of evolve and grow. So I think like Pilates is a hot thing right now. It used to be CrossFit. Now it's High Rocks. So this landscape is always changing. And if you don't evolve with it, you're going to have a hard time.
One of the things that I thought was interesting is back in 2020, Lululemon bought this company, Mirror.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Which is what Chip Wilson in his scathing indictment called this a disaster, that they bought it for $500 million. And then they basically wrote that down to zero within 18 months.
Oh my gosh.
And kind of shuttered that. And the date is important here. This company was bought 2 months after we went into lockdown, that everyone is buying Peloton. Peloton was on an absolute tear. So June of 2020, where there is this indefinite future of how long will we be here? You have connected fitness at home devices really taking off, with Peloton being just at the center of this. Mirror had built the tech, had some customers. And so Lululemon, a brand which is selling premium athleisure wear, it seems like this would fit kind of strategically with their customer base. Obviously, it didn't turn out that way. And I think that can be for a multitude of reasons. But
and the other fascinating thing here, one other comparison, Under Armour did this with Map My Run years ago. And that was one of their big mistakes. The second thing is, at that time, Lululemon's stock price has probably never been higher. So this is what Nike went through. The pandemic actually bolstered companies like Peloton and Mirror, but it also bolstered these apparel and footwear companies, because people were suddenly getting active and they were running out, buying running shoes and yoga tights because you were working from home. So women wanted to wear yoga tights all day. Scott Galloway has a great quote that's like, nothing is ever as good or as bad as it feels in the moment. And I remember thinking at that time, like a lot of us, we have this tendency to think things are always going to be the way that they are right now, or that it's going to continue to accelerate. And I do think, everybody was like, oh my gosh, the hotel industry is about to be over. Airlines are done. Group events are over. That couldn't be further from the truth now, 2 years after that.
Going back to this Map My Run. So you're saying Under Armour just Map My Run. And you said that was not a good idea. So what happened there?
They started Map My Fitness in 2007. They sold it to Under Armour for $150 million in 2013. And I think 11 years later, after it had been brought to the ground. Basically, this is an apparel and a footwear company buying a tech company. And it's not the same thing. You can't really operate that. They're very different. And I won't even I won't even pretend to know what makes a successful tech company, but it's basically acquiring subscribers and all that stuff. And it's not the same as coming out with a new innovation in, product or footwear every year or every quarter to try to drive people. It's not driven by Black Friday sales and back to school and stuff like that. It's a fitness app, which is very different. But you can see the thinking.
Yeah, of course.
Right? And again,
rationally makes so much sense, right?
Yeah.
Connect the dots. But it kind of glosses over the nature of the style of company you have to build and how it's staffed and how you acquire customers. And there's probably less overlap than
totally.
Think.
It happens all the time, and it's a real challenge. Nike has dabbled in things like this. And just to quote Scott again, I remember him used to always saying, like, Nike needs to buy Peloton. Nike thinks that Adidas is their competitor, and actually Apple or Peloton are their competitor because they're building such close affinity, and they're now the source of sport inspiration for a lot of people. But I'm glad Nike has resisted that. I don't think that is actually the answer. But man, what a way to absolutely torch your former company. Yeah, he still owns stock. So that's what. They also, Lulu got bought by Amer Sports, and they own like Arc'teryx and all these other companies. So I think that's also one of the challenges.
Yep.
What a fascinating, move. I'm not sure that that's going to help, but we shall see. Let's go on to the rebrands. Who should we go first? Domino's?
Yeah.
Is it a jingle? Did I see you made a video about a jingle?
Did just make a video about a jingle. So Domino's has come out with a new kind of visual refresh of their packaging, and it's really updated. Yeah, I think the logo and the packaging itself and the kind of updates that they made here make a lot of sense, because it's not that big of a departure from what we recognize Domino's to be. And they've just kind of simplified a few things there. But what caught my attention is, so they have this thing, like you can't say Domino's without saying, like that's their, I think like
That's clever.
hero positioning that they're taking here. And I saw that with this, they released a jingle. Well, I don't know that I'd call it a jingle. It's like a sound similar to like the Netflix sound. That's 4 seconds long. They had Shabuzi. Let's see if we can pull that up. They had
Is Shabuzi the one who does the jingle?
Yeah.
Domino. I got it, bro. That's it. That's fine.
It's clever. Domino's. Okay.
What I think is interesting is there was this era where we had so many jingles. Like almost every brand had an associated jingle with their brand. And I remember thinking back to all of these commercials from when I was a kid. I mean, there were so many, and I can still like vividly recall those sounds, right? It's like you've State Farm, Nationwide, the free credit report guys, Stanley Steamer, McDonald's. I mean, all of them had like some kind of sonic component to them. And yeah, of course. And I think there's a lot of like interesting research on how this kind of sonic branding or these jingles improve brand recall, brand affinity, across a variety of dimensions. And for whatever reason, it feels like that's stopped for 10, 15 years.
Outside of like local advertising.
Yeah.
I feel like my local radio, I've got, whoever the car dealer is or the air conditioning service that plays on my local sports radio. But yeah, you're right. And that seems weird in this ASMR era that we've kind of reintroduced in the last couple of years where sound is so important and audio has become so important.
Yeah, I wonder if it's kind of this thought that the jingles are kind of too old-timey. They're not like sophisticated enough for a big corporate brand. And so
for
maybe
the
that's
liberal elite, the coastal elites.
Yeah, exactly. Deciding that like, oh no, the jingle is beneath us. We just need like a rational, clean-cut message that people will remember. Why would they need any other device to like remember our brand? And then
millennial branding has removed all of the character out of the design and the jingles. Yeah.
Yes. So I made a video about this, basically just saying, hey, I think this is really interesting what Domino's is doing. There's a variety of ways that they can now use this as part of a broader jingle, or at the end of every, TV commercial or radio commercial, you start to hear this and then it just becomes like this ingrained in your head. But I think we'll probably see more brands reverting to this in some capacity, because we can't just think about brand as the visual identity and the verbal identity and the packaging, but across all of these touch points and kind of sensory inputs, how else does the brand like show up? I thought everything that Domino's did in this rebrand was pretty interesting.
You know what the challenge though is? What I could see happening is you go to somebody like Shabuzi because he's hot right now, but if he goes away, and kind of falls a little out of relevant, they keep trying to find someone like the latest, Sydney Sweeney or whoever it might be, and you maybe don't stick with something. Or maybe you just hire someone to keep doing that same sound, but it's through different people's voice. That could work.
If I didn't watch the video that said like Shabuzi did the voiceover, I would never know.
Yeah.
It's just like his voice that like generally sounds good. And so I don't think Shabuzi himself will be this like brand icon, because that already feels dated. Like, all right, that was last summer that that he was kind of really hitting.
Well, but it's interesting that they led the PR headline with him. He's like the key.
Because they started planning this last summer.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to lock in Shabuzi. We're going to get him to do it.
Touché.
So now they're like, all right, we got to like.
That's true.
It's sunk cost fallacy. No, I don't think anyone gives a shit that like Shabuzi did the sound for this. That's not why we're listening.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's Domino's, and you approve of this.
I approve.
At first I looked, I was like, it doesn't look like that big of a rebrand, but I think you're right. It retains enough of the old elements. I think they did well. Good call.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things, and every so often, almost every time a brand does like a visual refresh like this, calls it a rebrand. Everyone's like, they paid millions of dollars for this. Like I could have done this, whatever. And I think what this overlooks the fact is, hey, rebrands don't need to be synonymous with we change everything about our brand.
Right.
We go like kind of Cracker Barrel route, unless there's a strategic reason to completely move away from everything that the old identity stood for. Domino's has been in pretty good standing. They kind of like really revitalized themselves over the last 15 years. And so they're not saying, hey, we have such a hole that we need to dig ourselves out of, but maybe we need like this refresh as we're signaling a couple of new things and we need to like tighten some things up. And now's a good time to just like make all these incremental tweaks. That can often be much better than like a Sierra Mist every 2 years changing their entire brand like completely.
Do we know who the agency was who did this?
It's called Working in Progress or Work in Progress, maybe. I saw
Work in Progress,
I saw them being talked about with that sound.
Yeah.
Like that jingle that they made.
Got it.
So I think their branding agency probably did.
Let's see, where's Work in Progress? Work in Progress, brand design, small agency of the year. Their website's good.
Oh, so you can scroll without it getting completely scroll jacked?
Yeah, I like it.
Okay, then.
Emergency Pizza, Boost Mobile. Oh, yes, I've seen that.
Nice.
Sling, Cliffside Shop. Fun. All right, well, shout out to Work in Progress. Good work. Who's the other big rebrand that we were looking at this week? Oh, Crocs.
Crocs did a big rebrand this week.
Yeah, let's see.
All right, gut check. What are you saying?
At first, I was like, nah. And then I think it's clever. But yeah, I do think they need to evolve the old one. The old one feels a little complex. I'm not sure. I suppose they're just going to stick with the clog silhouette. And if so, then fine. Lean all the way into it and make the silhouette part of your identity. But if you wanted to expand out of that silhouette, as we talked about in the beginning of this, and maybe they won't. Maybe Crocs is the one brand who says, no, we stick to what we know. And that's how we're going to continue to succeed, then I like it. What say you?
Yeah,
you
I
have
love
more
it.
of a design eye. Do you?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's clever. It looks like a crocodile and it looks like the silhouette of their shoe. You have the holes in them, which is like iconic for the Croc. And most of these, when you go from like a complex or like a more detail-oriented logo mark to something that is simple, 9 out of 10 times that's just like, oh, this is kind of like blanding for blanding's sake. I don't think that is what's happening here. It is just a much more minimal form that's really cool. It works at like small scales, large scales. It can become like this hyper memorable, ownable thing for them. Most importantly, the brand itself is not trying to sell you like these luxury, highly detailed, ornate shoes. It's like, dude, these are like the cheapest pair of like recycled product things that are like kind of fun and whimsical. And I think having a mark that also reflects that is super nice. So I like everything about this.
Yeah, I do too. I like the word mark stayed the same. This is good. All right, who was the other one? More importantly, Ashwin, do you own a pair of Crocs?
I don't own a pair of Crocs. I'm not buying Crocs.
I don't either.
My daughter owns Crocs though.
I couldn't do it. Yeah, my kids do too.
They're a great kids shoe.
I think so. Have you seen Lusso Clouds? So I did a poll on my story a summer ago or a couple summers ago. And I was like, hey, so in Oregon, you could wear the Birkenstock Boston, right? The slide, but it's covered. And in Dallas, Texas, you cannot wear that Boston except for maybe 2 months out of the year, November, December, January. Yeah, there you go. So I was like, hey, I want something that's slip on, that's breathable, ideally waterproof, and that's grown. Like I'm not wearing shower slides and I don't want to wear Crocs. I think they're hideous. And so Lusso Cloud to me, I think has this real big opportunity. And these have been a game changer for me. They're just like a more refined version of Crocs. They last forever, which is probably a business problem for them, but they're great. They're less than $100. Rob Dyrdek is a founder in this. There's several people who are founders out there in that Orange County, LA world, and I would like to be. And I think they've got a ton of opportunity to continue to grow this thing.
Do you know how Lusso is doing as a business?
Not as good as it could be. There's no reason this should not be the adult version of like every kid who has a pair of Crocs, like their parents should have a pair of Lusso Clouds.
Yeah.
Or at least, let's say, half of them, because a lot of adults wear and own Crocs.
So let's see the...
Kane. I tried these, but I didn't like them. And my wife was like, those are the most hideous things I've ever seen. The problem for me on the Kane. I like the principle of it. I liked some of them. They're kind of like wearing like a water shoe almost. Like it's a full silhouette of a shoe. And so to me, it kind of like can't decide whether I think it's better as just like a cushioned, comfortable shoe that you would wear with like a thin sock. But wearing them without socks, to me, just like your feet get sweaty, and I don't know. Do you like the Canes? Have you worn them?
No.
Yeah, they're a fair alternative, but they have a back, and therefore they're just a shoe silhouette to me.
Yeah.
Who else rebranded?
We had the city of Austin doing a rebrand.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was all kind of
which that just immediately got disapproval across the board.
I don't know, dude. You gotta look at the old city of Austin design. Yeah, I mean, look at the old one. Austin is spending $1 million on it.
So okay, so you don't like the old one?
I mean, I could see why it would be time to update the old one.
How about that? They've got their genie lamp in
it looks like a
very complicated crest. Yeah,
it sure is. It's like a Austrian flag from.
Yeah,
it's got some eagle wings. It's got a Celtic cross in there. An actual genie bottle. What the hell is that?
Yeah, all kinds of things going on. So I could agree. Hey, yeah, especially if it's not this like iconic thing, that's well known in Austin. I haven't spent that much time in Austin, but I haven't seen that anywhere. So yes, I think that's fine. Okay, time to shift things here. I think this new one looks something like a new kind of like transport mobility device / telehealth company. And it's just like that's just the feel that it gives. And yeah, I don't know, kind of looks like,
let's see it in the brand guidelines. Yeah,
Con Edison there, and maybe that's what they need. Maybe that's what Austin needs. Yeah, okay, they've got their department logos.
Yeah, wow, extended palette goes crazy.
Let's go into their visual identity.
Yeah, we are. We're deep in the deck.
Let's pop up in section.
I love that this is published. This stuff
for $1 million. I think they have to.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a weird.
There's something about the rivers and the mountains, like the hills of Austin, plus the green belt.
There are a lot of hills in Austin.
It's hilly. I mean, it's not San Francisco, but yes, compared to Dallas and the rest of Texas, which is completely flat, it's kind of the beginning of hill country. There are some hills out there. I'm trying to remember the inspiration that I read about it, but it's the green belt, so there's a lot of greenery. It's fun. I don't know. I don't hate it.
Wait, let's go up a little bit. Go to that hydration station. Let's see. Yeah, I think the interesting thing or question is always with like logos and brand identities is how is it used in practice in the actual application, right?
Yeah.
Like how often do you see just the city of a logo or the logo of a city being this like iconic thing that is everywhere, right? It's more so what is the entire visual system for maybe all of the signage. So if this goes onto transport signage,
trash cans, like every trash can in the city, yeah, like
more interesting to see how it's applied there. Yeah,
let me show you. So they drew some comparison. Dallas is here on the left.
Oh, there you go.
There's some interesting comparisons here. Somebody said it was the ChatGPT, the Dallas logo. Oh my gosh. Can we talk about how freaking terrible ChatGPT is to write things? I'm sure I'm not like prompting it right, but I have given this thing. I made the custom GPT. You guided us on this. We appreciate it. I uploaded everything. I uploaded multiple transcripts from podcasts I've been on. Mm-hmm. I uploaded all kinds of videos that I've done. I thought I had uploaded all my newsletter stuff. And you know what? I'm just going to for purposes of this, I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to pull up what I fed to it. So one of the system that I have right now, sometimes I'll write my newsletter just from scratch, and other times I'll take one of my highest performing videos or something that people were really interested in. Mm-hmm. I will take the transcript of that, and then I've tried to load it into my custom GPT and say, hey, turn this into a newsletter. And so I'm going to give you an example of like the video that I created that was interesting. So you're maybe not familiar enough, but LeBron James and Hennessy did this big stunt this week on the second decision. So they teased this thing, right?
Yep.
Here's an example. I say, yesterday, LeBron sat down for his second decision, and this one was just as poor as the first. If you're unfamiliar, LeBron James teased a second decision coming on his Instagram channel. It got 30 million views. And today we found out that this was just a promotion of Hennessy. Now, I think the team will take this as a win because it got 30 million views yesterday and it got 10 million views today. But I think that there's a different side that they should consider here, blah, blah, blah. So let's go to my newsletter and see what it has come up with. I just read this yesterday and I was like, I'm not sending this. I can't send this. So the title is pretty good. LeBron's second decision and the cost of regrettable attention. Essentially what I do is I say, hey, I've been studying YouTube recently. Mr. Beast has a concept of basically, and all YouTubers, is that you need to pay off the thumbnail and title almost immediately and not pull this bait and switch, which is essentially what Hennessy did. It was like, oh, the second decision's coming. A bunch of people thought he was retiring. They went out and bought tickets. They sold tickets. Like all this stuff happened, which is just wild to me that people are that fucking stupid. But this title, and so I basically use it as a case to say regrettable attention is one of these metrics that Elon is using for X, which I think is also a good metric.
Yeah.
And so while you got a bunch of views, I don't know that actually people are going to not. I think people will regret the attention that they gave to this thing. And so this, the title I think is good. LeBron's second decision and the cost of regrettable attention. What LeBron's fake out taught us about marketing and the attention economy. Fine. So then it breaks it down to the setup, attention versus affection, the Mr. Beast principle, which are like good buckets. But it says, LeBron James sat down for what he called the second decision. The internet went wild. M dash. 30 million views. Endless speculation. Was he retiring? Leaving in LA? Nope. He was just announcing a new cognac partnership. The comments were chaos. Millions watched. Millions were disappointed. And yet the post racked up engagement numbers any brand would die for. So was it a win? Depends on how you define success. We're living in a moment where attention is the most valuable currency in marketing, but like real currency, it can inflate and lose value when misused. M dash. LeBron's decision, hold on, here it is. LeBron's decision 2.0 might look successful on paper. 30 million views equals success, right? But it's why I call regrettable attention, when the audience feels tricked instead of treated. You might win the click, but you lose the connection. I can't read any further.
Yes.
I don't know how to define this. Like, I am trying to figure out how to define ChatGPT speak.
Yeah.
So it's very like, you think it's this? No, it's that. Like, it's this? No, it's that. You thought this, but no, it's actually that. And it's this fucking LinkedIn stuff that just drives me crazy. Sorry, please go on.
Yes. I think it's really tough to use to get, when you are to create content that people are looking for your voice and perspective,
yes,
which is a category of content, I think it is really hard to offload that into ChatGPT. If you are creating content like Morning Brew, for example, which is like, here's the news, here's like a little soundbite on it.
Yep.
They have enough historical stuff where it's like, you probably get 95% of the way there. And even if it does do some of this like trite GPT stuff, it's like, yeah, great. I'm not reading Morning Brew for like Morning Brew's like perspective on the world. I'm just like, what happened in the world? So like, I think it can eat or speed up a lot of that content. But here it's like Jordan, the person, I want to know what he is saying.
Yeah.
So I found this too. So I just don't use it for any writing like that.
Yeah.
One thing that I would try out is speak into like the GPT app, just your entire thing, right? Don't feed it a transcript. Just be like, okay, so here's what's happening, as though you were explaining it to a person and your entire take on it. And then say, put this in a transcript. Don't edit a single thing. And then like the next prompt is, okay, how would we tweak this ever so slightly for a newsletter, keeping 99.9% of my spoken voice here? Walk me through the rationale before you actually make the edits. And then you kind of have to micro prompt it to getting something a lot better. I would try that out because, I think the custom GPT is probably not going to work there.
My biggest problem is I think by the time I go through all of that and handhold, this is the thing about hiring and outsourcing as well, that you go, God dang it, I could have just done this myself. All the time I spent here like prompting GPT to like, I'm like, dude, I would just sat down and like bang this thing out, like, and sometimes I just think there's no shortcuts in life.
Yeah, that's our thought on GPT and rebrands. I have to go. I have to jump to it.
Yes, we do.
Now.
All right, everybody, that wraps this week's episode. Thanks for tuning in.
Yep, thanks everybody.
See you guys next week.